Masto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Klimas, I had mentioned that currently there's a proposal to reschedule cannabis, right, and to a Schedule 3 from a Schedule 1. Can you expand on why we still need, even if that happens, why do we still need to enact specific cannabis banking legislation such as SAFER?
So, the protection for banks, or the legality for banks in this perspective, is not tied to the scheduling. So there is indication from the administration that they may be looking towards directing agencies to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. That impact on state markets, it does not impact the state's legality of the market and the way that they operate and sell products. They're still illegal. They're not FDA-approved products. So that doesn't do anything for the risk with banks. And current financial guidance, the FinCEN guidance from 2014, would be the same type of guidance. So it would still be illegal commerce at the state level, whether it was a Schedule 1 drug or a Schedule 3 drug.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate the chairman's comments with respect to the market as a whole. And I noticed you might want to respond to some of it, because let me ask you this. Just like the patchwork of state laws that you have just addressed, technically, when it comes to cannabis, each state right now, because the federal legislation is there making it illegal, each state has its own regulations, right? How would you address some of the concerns the chairman talked about with gummies and the regulation of some of the flavoring? And is each state different? Is there a standard that we should be looking at? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, yes, we have a patchwork of regulations. Each state takes a different approach. And I think overall that is recognizing a lack of standardization among this industry over 40 states. There are groups, the Cannabis Regulators Association, which I helped found. They do really great work on trying to standardize that at the state level. But each state legislature has its own opinion on how they want their programs to run. And so we're left with that patchwork. And Chairman, I agree with you. The ultimate goal here is to create a global regulatory framework that inserts federal agencies like the FDA in to do research and to help set those standards. My fear is that that's going to take quite a bit of time. Maybe a move to Schedule 3 is momentum, and that would be positive. But I worry about what happens, not only what happens to the small and medium-sized businesses in the cannabis industry, but what happens to bad actors that have found a place in this industry while we wait for that. But I certainly appreciate that and agree with you.
And then would you address the cash-intensive nature? Because that's still a concern, and that's what this Safer Banking Act is really trying to get at this one small piece of it, and the concerns there about public safety when it comes to cash-intensive businesses like cannabis businesses.
Absolutely. And so as a former regulator, our job was to protect the public health and safety. That was our job, and we did that through transparency in our operators and transparency in our industries, or transparency initiatives. Most state regulatory bodies have a great understanding of the operations of cannabis businesses. We do that through seed-to-sale tracking, which is a requirement. So we know product from when it's planted to when it's sold. Also, most regulatory bodies have a really good understanding of ownership structures. There are pretty strict ownership requirements to try to look out for hidden ownership. What we don't have the most insight into is the financials, especially when we're moving large-scale cash-based transactions back and forth. And so, what the Safer Banking Act would do is bring financial institutions, give them that protection and that safe harbor, and bring them into the fold on a more comprehensive basis. Because financial institutions are the ones that should be looking out for this. They're the pros, the professionals at tracking money, sending those reports on Know Your Customer and anti-money laundering. That, in combination with the work that state regulators have done on operations and ownership, that's really how we get insight into the operators and make sure that we're protecting the public safety aspect of this.
Thank you. I know my time is almost up, but I appreciate your comments and being here.